Hey guys, I didn't think this day would happen either, but here we are. So today I'm going to be reviewing for you guys the highly anticipated JACLYN Hill and MORPHE collaboration. This will be the only MORPHE product I have in my collection. First and foremost, I just wanted to congratulate both JACLYN Hill and MORPHE on this collaboration, and I also wanted to thank both JACLYN Hill and MORPHE for sending this palette out to me for my consideration. I thought that was really awesome of them to do, considering that I am not a MORPHE affiliate. I do not work with MORPHE in any capacity. I do not receive PR from them, so I thought it was awesome that they sent out this palette for me to try out and review for you guys. So with that out of the way, let's jump into a quick eye tutorial. I'm going to show you guys how I did this look that I'm wearing right now using only the palette, and then I will tell you guys my thoughts. If you want timestamps, everything will be below for the review, swatches, and tutorial. Let's jump into it. Okay, so I tried to fiddle around with my lighting a little bit to get it as close to the genuine colors as I possibly could. A lot of the photos and videos I've been seeing of this palette are quite overexposed, which is actually unfortunate because the palette has a lot of nice, like really deep, rich shades to it. So the first color I'm going to be going in with is Silk Cream. I already have my eye primer down. I'm just using Urban Decay Primer Potion as well as a base shadow, just a color that matches my skin tone, which is what I always do for all of my makeup looks. So I'm just taking my Smith 232 brush and I'm just going to blend that first color into the crease. The next color I'm going to take is Buns. Yeah, I'm just going to be taking this on a brush from a company called Volair, and it's the E07 brush. And I'm just bringing that right onto that outer V. This color is probably one of my favorite colors in the palette. I just think it's a really nice kind of different transition shade. It reminds me a lot of the Modern Renaissance palette kind of transitions. So I'm just building that up in that outer corner. And then I'm just going to blend that out with a slightly bigger brush. So you guys know that I like to apply my color with a little bit of a smaller brush and then blend with a bigger brush. I just think that especially when you're working with similar tones, you want to make sure that you're using smaller brushes to apply so that you're not making it muddy. Now I'm just going to take this color here. Oh, I just marked it with my nail. Whoops. I'm going to be taking this color here called Pukey. Again, just grabbing that on my Smith 232 brush. And I'm just using this to buff out everything. Next, I'm going to be taking the color Mocha. And again, I'm going to grab that on my little E07 brush from Volair. And I'm just using this to really build up the intensity on my outer corner. Going for a nice smoky V. So far, I've been using only the mattes in the palette. And I do think that they are nice. They seem to be building up well, and even some of the colors that I was a little bit concerned about when I was swatching, they seem to blend out really nicely and build up. Next, I'm going to take a little bit of this color called Chip. I'm just going to take that on a little Cosette S185 brush, and I'm going to deepen the crease a little bit more with it. Fallout so far as well has been minimal, which is pretty impressive. So now I'm going to move into some of the shimmery colors. So I'm going to be using a little bit of SBN right here, and then I'm probably going to put a little bit of Obsessed over top. So all the metallic shadows swatch very beautifully. They're quite creamy when you first touch them. I have, however, had a little bit of trouble with the colors that I've chosen today, just building them up on the eye. I think that they don't look quite like they swatch. So that was just SBN that I put over top. It comes out almost a little bit more of a sheen as opposed to a really intense metallic like they swatch. But now I'm going to go over and pop a little bit of that color Obsessed over top. This one definitely has a little bit more impact to it. It does come out a little bit more kind of metallic and shimmery. Now I'm going to take a little bit of this color Meeks, and I'm just going to pop that kind of nearing the outer corner, but not quite on our little V there. And then I'm just going to take my little Cosette brush again, and I'm going to grab some of Abyss right here. Abyss is one of the colors I kind of was disappointed when swatching, just because it looked quite dark actually in the video that JACLYN had, where she was showing her swatches and kind of talking through each of the colors and stuff. That said, having a black that's a little bit less pigmented, in my opinion, is a little bit more approachable for the general consumer. Most people don't use a black that's fully pigmented, and they wouldn't use it as a black eyeshadow, so to speak, but rather something to deepen the crease. And then I'm just going to grab a little bit more of that color Pukey and go all the way over my edges again. Next, I'm going to be grabbing the colors Mocha and Chip and just kind of mixing them together. I'm going to be taking that on my little Real Techniques accent brush, and I'm going to apply it under the lower lash line. Just kind of connecting that with my outer V on that outer corner. And then I'm going to grab the color Buns again on my Zoeva 231 brush. And I'm just going to use that to start buffing out those deeper colors. And then grabbing a Zoeva 224 brush, I'm going to take the color Pukey again. Oh my god, I wish I hadn't chosen that color for this video. And I'm just going to go over top of all my little edges on the bottom. Next I'm going to do is take this color right here called Beam. And I'm just grabbing that on an EO8 brush from Volair. And I'm going to put the tiniest little amount of that on my brow bone. The one thing that I was kind of disappointed about with this palette is I wish that they had a true matte brow bone shade just to create a little bit more versatility out of the palette. Then I'm going to grab a little bit of Mocha and Abyss mixed, and I'm just using a little Volair E10 angle brush. And wow, I'm really using Volair a lot today. And I'm just going to basically sketch out a tiny, tiny little wing on the outer corner, more so to hide my lashes than anything. I didn't want to do a winged liner with this just because I wanted you guys to be able to see the shadows and have that be more kind of impactful than the winged liner. I'm just going to finish this off with a few individual lashes, but first I'm going to be taking my Stila liquid eyeliner, and I'm just going to go over top of my lashes. Anytime that I'm wearing either half lashes or individuals, I like to kind of just paint the tops of my lashes because they get dusty when you're putting eyeshadow on, and then they look lighter than they are. And then I'm just gonna be taking these little trio lashes from Kiss, super cheap at Walmart. And I'm just gonna pop on a few of those on the outer corner. Again, I didn't want to do anything too crazy with the lashes so that you guys could see more of the shadow. And then you can go ahead and apply your mascara like normal. So this is the final look. So I'm going to do a bunch of swatches for you guys. I'm going to be doing both finger and brush swatches, but first I thought I would talk about my general overall thoughts of the palette, my first impressions, and now having used it on my eyes. The first thing right out the gate that I was a little bit disappointed by was the packaging. Just given the fact that JACLYN did mention that she wanted this to be something that everybody could use every day, travel with it, it could be something that makeup artists could use backstage and stuff like that. I do find the packaging to be very JACLYN. However, this will get quite dirty over time. I've already gotten it very dirty, so that's just a little bit, you know, disappointing if it's something that you're going to want to be using all the time. I myself am very attached to packaging. I love good packaging, so this is sturdy, but it will definitely get dirty over time, and being cardboard, you know, I probably would be a little bit nervous to travel with this myself. So then you open it up and she has her nice little message to her subscribers, and then you see all the colors. I do wish that the names were actually on the palette, just given that this palette will be used heavily on YouTube, and a lot of YouTubers like to be able to recite the names so that you guys can use it and know what we're using. And also I did watch her video where she kind of goes through each and every name, and all of them kind of have some significance to her and they seem really well thought out. So I just thought it was too bad that the names weren't included, given that she did put time and effort into that. Moving on to the overall concept of the colors of the palette, I've seen a lot of criticism about this being a basic palette. I do think that when you move into palettes of this size, you need to consider the fact that it's not necessarily about the theme as a palette with maybe 8 colors would be, but rather the fact that it has so many shades that you would hopefully be having everything that you need in one palette. So with that said, I do think that there's a good range of light, medium, dark tones. There's a nice range of mattes and shimmers. Obviously that's something that people look for quite often. Nobody wants a palette that's just nothing but shimmers because it's not very versatile for every day. In terms of formula, I did think that many of the matte shades swatched beautifully, and some of them swatched kind of patchy, which you guys will see when I do my swatches for you. However, many of the shades that swatched patchy seem to blend fine on the eye. Mattes aren't necessarily something that you want to have extreme pigment on, just because it makes it a lot harder to blend out on the eye. It makes it quite patchy patchy. Personally, I prefer a matte that's a little bit more buildable, so I wasn't too concerned when I saw that some of them were patchy upon swatching. Almost all of the metallic shades swatch beautifully. They come across very creamy, they're very opaque. I did find them to be lacking a little bit once applied on the eye. I do think to get the full impact out of the metallics in this shade, you would probably want to apply either with a wet brush or your fingers. There are a couple colors that I feel like are too similar on my skin tone to make much of a difference, which would be these two colors here. This one being a little bit more pink toned and this one being a little bit more yellow toned. On my skin, they don't show much of a difference. Same with these two here. She did mention that she wanted a little bit of different undertones. Personally, I don't feel like you'd be able to tell the difference between these two on almost any skin tone. So there are a few shades that I feel like could have easily been replaced, but overall, I do feel like this palette is quite a bit more versatile than the photos that I initially saw. A lot of the colors looked quite similar in photos, and again, I think that is because many of the photos and videos that I had seen were quite washed out and just blown out with lighting and stuff like that so that you could catch reflex and whatever else, but it didn't give necessarily a true representation of the colors. That said, I'm more impressed by the colors in person than I was seeing photos. I threw together for you guys a little bit of a final price just for like the top countries on the Morphe website, and I just wanted to include how much it would be for like shipping, duties, all that kind of stuff. Obviously this is just an estimate, it's definitely not exact. It's just the best that I could try and figure out so that you guys can know what you're getting for your money. So this retails for $38 US. After shipping in the US, it'll be about $48. UK, it'll be about £69 after shipping, duty, taxes, and exchange. Australia, I had troubles with the duties on this one, but with shipping, taxes, and exchange, it comes to about $84 Australian. And then Canada, with shipping, duties, taxes, and exchange, it comes to about $119. So I did a little bit of a first impressions of this on my Periscope this morning when I first got it, and a lot of you guys were asking if I think it's worth it for the price. Canada gets the shit under the stick, as we do. I do think this palette is great. I think that if you buy it, you probably won't be disappointed with it. However, I do have a hard time justifying $119 or anything over like $60, I'd say. When it comes to a high price point, as I've mentioned in other videos, I like to be seeing either packaging that is so undeniably over the top that it warrants the high price tag, or a formula that is so unique and so different that it, again, warrants the high price point. I definitely don't think that this packaging warrants the high price point. You can tell that there's not a ton of money that went into this packaging. It's nice and it is reflective of JACLYN Hill, but it's not necessarily worth $119 in my opinion. The formula for the eyeshadows is nice, but it is comparable to other eyeshadows on the market. And while there are some unique colors in the palette, I don't think that there are enough unique colors to justify it, especially if you are somebody that already collects makeup. You may have pretty similar colors to colors that are in this palette. So for Canadians, it may not be the best deal for you. US, definitely. I think it's a good quality product, and I think that you won't be disappointed with your purchase. UK and Australia, I don't know what you're normally paying for stuff, man. That's up to you to decide. Okay, let's move into swatches. So with all of my swatches, I'm gonna be doing one finger swipe and one swipe with the brush, and I do obviously have studio lighting here, but again, I did try to correct my lighting as much as I possibly could to reflect how it looks in person, or as close as I can. So this is the first row, and the first color we have is in light, so this is the finger swatch and the brush swatch beside it. For the finger swatch, I just kind of like rubbed my finger in, did a normal finger swatch. Brush swatch, I just rubbed my brush in as much as I normally would to apply to my eyes and did one swipe. So this one is kind of more of a peachy undertone. It's a satin finish in JACLYN's words, so it's not quite a metallic, but it does have a little bit of shimmer to it. Personally, I do find that this comes up quite shimmery on the eye, and I wish it was just a little bit more matte. The next color is Beam. This one is quite an intense shimmer on the eye, in my opinion, and it's a little bit more yellow toned. I do think that it has a nice tone to it, and it will complement many, many skin tones. The next color is Silk Cream. This is a nice transition shade. This one swatched a little bit patchy, but it was completely fine on the eye. It was nice and blendable. The next one is MFEO. These are the two that I was saying you wouldn't really see much of a difference on most skin tones. I understand that they were meant to have different undertones and stuff like that, but I don't think it's substantial enough of a difference. I do think that, you know, a different shade could have been added easily and we wouldn't have really noticed. The next color is Faint, which is right here, and this color is probably one of the patchiest metallics when swatching. It does seem to skip a little bit with a finger and a brush, and it applies quite patchy with a brush, and it does not show up very much. I imagine that if you were going to use that one in the eye, you would definitely want to go in with your finger. The next one is Sissy. and that one is kind of a little bit more of a blue toned pink with some gold in there. Swatches beautifully with your finger. A little bit patchy with a brush, but again, you could easily go in with your finger. The next color is Little Lady, which is right here. This one is more of a coral toned pink with the gold undertones as well. Again, quite a patchy brush swatch, but applies beautifully with the finger. I'll be honest, when I swatched this first row with my fingers, I got a little bit concerned just because you can see that it has quite a heavy deposit right where you first put the product down, and then as you blend it out, it seems to skip and get a little bit patchy. However, as soon as I went in and did my brush swatches, I had my fears alleviated because it does have a nice smooth gradient, which generally means that it will blend out quite well on the eye. So the first color we have is Creamsicle. It's this kind of mustardy yellow color, really pretty. It's quite intense, so it'll work really, really well on deeper skin tones as well, which is nice. The next color is Butter. Again, a really nice transition shade. A little bit deeper than the transition shades on the top row, so this will work for like tan to deeper skin tones as well. The next color we have is Pooter. This one blends out actually really, really nicely, but it did seem to apply kind of patchy at first. Next color we have is Pukey. Oh my god, I'm getting so tired of saying that name, but beautiful color. It's great for transition shades. Love that one. The next color is Hunts. This one definitely applies a little bit patchy in the finger swatches and the brush swatches, but it's a beautiful red tone, so I'm interested to try and play with that one a little bit more. The next color is Firework, which applies beautifully as a finger swatch, but definitely skips and gets quite patchy and tends to sit on top of the skin a little bit with the brush swatches, so I think that that one might take a little bit of work and would probably have to be applied more so with your finger on the eye. The next color is Queen. This color is obviously stunning. It's very intense, and it swatches quite nicely with the brush as well, applies quite intensely, so I don't see you having any issues with that one on the eye. Okay, so this is the third row. The first color is called Obsessed. You can almost barely see it on my skin tone in the video, but in person it is a little bit of like a taupey champagne color. It's nice. This is one of the ones that I used in my tutorial. I do feel like I had a hard time building it up to be as metallic as its swatches, but it's still a nice color. The next one is called SBN, or Smoky But Natural. I think that this is a beautiful color. I actually really like it a lot, and I can totally see myself putting that all over my lid and just blending it out on like an easy day. The next color is one of my favorite colors in the palette. It's called Hillster. This swatch is obviously beautiful with the finger. I do worry a little bit about how it will apply with the brush, but I'm gonna have to play around with it a little bit more. The next color is called Roxanne. It's a nice deep color. Swatch is a little bit patchy with the brush, but I do think that just looking at the swatches, I think that it would probably blend out pretty okay on the eyes. Have to play around with it. The next two colors are Jacks and Buns. These two colors are noticeably drier than the rest of the mattes in the palette. It seems like they might have been pressed a little bit harder, but don't worry, I think both of them will blend out fine on the eye. They just seem a little bit harder and less buttery, and it's quite noticeable in comparison to the texture of the other mattes in the palette. Jacks I'm a little bit nervous about because it does look quite patchy in the finger and the brush swatch, but Buns I used and had absolutely no problem with. My arm's getting so tired. The next color is Cran Apple. This is a really pretty color. It's kind of like a red and it has a little bit of gold undertone to it. Really pretty. It might be a color that you need to apply with your finger, not too sure. Okay, so this is the fourth row. The first color we have is Royalty, which is kind of a nice deep purple color. Personally, not super attracted to this type of color. I would almost never use it, but it's a nice kind of addition as a pop of color to the palette. Applies really nicely on the finger. Brush is quite patchy, and it does appear to be sitting on top of the skin quite a bit, so you might have a little bit of troubles with that one. I would definitely recommend going in with a wet brush or your finger. The next color is Twerk. This one I was a little bit disappointed by. It did show up quite vibrant on other swatches I've seen, and I did feel like it was a little bit lackluster in person. The brush swatch for it is also a little bit rough, so again, I would probably recommend going in with a wet brush to get full intensity out of that shadow. The next color is Hustle. I think this is a great lid color. It has metallic to it, but it does look like it's something that would blend out to look like more of a sheen, which would be really pretty just for like everyday wear. The next color is Meeks, which is absolutely stunning. stunning, and it applies beautifully with a brush as well. Really, really nicely milled. It's super creamy, and it's just really pretty, and nice dimension to it as well. The next color is 24/7. This color I'm a little bit disappointed by. It's a little bit patchy. You might struggle with that one a little bit. And then we have Chip and Mocha. So those are actually really nice mattes. They apply quite nicely. They look a little bit patchy in the brush swatches, but they blend out beautifully on the eye. Okay, so this is the 5th and final row. The first color is called Pool Party. It is undeniably beautiful. It's a nice teal that has kind of a gold shimmer to it. Applies beautifully on the finger and on a brush. The next color is called Jada. This one I can definitely see people having a little bit of trouble with. I'll have to play around with it. It does apply quite a heavy deposit, and then it seems to blend out pretty patchy. Who knows how it'll apply on the eye. I do know that this is like a particularly tricky color just across the board from any company. The next color is Diva, which is kind of a almost gray toned foresty green. Looks pretty. It looks like it'll blend out nicely. Next color is Enchanted. It's kind of a deep forest green. Looks like it could be a little bit patchy, but that said, I do like that with this whole row, she seemed to kind of go for deep colors that would kind of make a difference on the eyes, but not be anything that's like too unapproachable for people. They'll still be nice and smoky and wearable. Next color is Central Park. That one looks good. Looks like it'll blend out easily. Next color is Soda Pop, which is a deep kind of grape color. I do wish that this pulled a little bit more red tone, just because I think that it would complement the palette a little bit better. But that said, it does actually have a nice texture, considering that's a pretty tricky color to get right. And the end color there is Abyss. I do think that this one is definitely not pitch black in my opinion, but it is a nice buildable color to deepen your eye looks. I've already ruined it just doing my swatches. So you guys, that is my tutorial review and swatches of the JACLYN Hill Morphe palette. If you guys pick this up and you want to see some more tutorials with it, let me know. Hope you guys learned something cool today. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.